So Donald Trump goes out on Friday night in a rally, says that COVID-19 is a hoax. And then, of course, they've got to go and they've got to respond to that, in the press conference. What's his face? Mike Pence. Let's put up that picture of Mike Pence trying to pray away. Do we have it? Take a look at this picture. Here it is right here. There's a bunch of white guys. Oh, there's one woman in the back. There's one woman in that room. There's a bunch of white guys bowing their heads, praying to get God's help with COVID-19. And they're praying. I mean,
that kind of use of emojis, the praying hands, the strong arm, and the American flag thing, that's fascism in three emojis.
I was gonna say, like, hey, how can we best represent fascism taking over? What was that book? The Singing Christian. I can't remember now. It's a satire, but that's basically it. So here is Pence, the high priest, and Donald Trump dealing with the idea that, this was having to address the fact that he keeps calling it a hoax.
I could just ask you said the other day in the cabinet room with African-American leaders, you've got to get away from politics. You were down in Charleston last night using the word hoax when talking about Democrats. Somebody now is dead from this. Do you regret that kind of talk?
No. Hoax referring to the action that they take to try and pin this on somebody because we've done such a good job. The hoax is on them. I'm not talking about what's happening here. I'm talking what they're doing. That's the hoax. That's just a continuation of the hoax, whether it's the impeachment hoax or the Russia hoax. This is what I'm talking about. Certainly not referring to this. How could anybody refer to this? This is very serious stuff. But the way they refer to it, because these people have done such an incredible job, and I don't like it when they are criticizing these people, and that's the hoax.
It's amazing how, like, it's this thing, that, this, that. I don't want, I'm not going to say the words, but it's all going to be Voldemort. That's all it basically is. Later, Mike Pence, who in that last clip we just saw with him, who was literally hiding, like if there was like a potted plant there, he would be hiding behind it, Mike Pence. But he is in charge of the nation's response to the virus, which, of course, my first understanding is that the vice president's office was handing out clovers of garlic, not to ingest, just to wear around your neck to keep the virus away, and recommending prayers. Here he is on with Jake Tapper, and Jake Tapper asks him directly, like, have you seen all the lunatics surrounding your president?
Like his son.
Like his son, claiming that this is all just sort of like the real problem with this is that it's being politicized.
A lot of unfortunate rhetoric on the left and on the right about the coronavirus.
Pause it for 1 second. Wow. What is the unfortunate rhetoric on the left? I think one New York Times columnist, I don't know who it is, called it the Trump virus. But I think they were talking about it sort of like metaphorically. Like, what is the, like, what, like, did Chapo make a bad joke about the virus? And that's the equivalency. I mean, the site that's on the podcast that's on Patreon made a joke about the virus, and also the president did. So
former Gawker employee.
Right, exactly.
I did find it a little distasteful when they ran that chyron comparing the coronavirus to Bernie.
Right.
A lot of unfortunate rhetoric on the left and on the right about the coronavirus. I want you to take a listen to something that the president's son, Don Jr., said about Democrats and the coronavirus just on Friday.
Anything that they can use to try to hurt Trump, they will. But for them to try to take a pandemic and seemingly hope that it comes here and kills millions of people so that they could end Donald Trump's streak of winning is a new level of sickness.
Can we agree that neither Democrats nor Republicans want Americans to get the coronavirus and die from it? I mean, that does seem like it seems like very extreme rhetoric. I don't expect you to criticize the president's son, but you don't think that Democrats want people to contract this disease, do you?
Well, I think what the president said earlier this week.
Pause it. I just like, this is not a gotcha question, right? You don't think that the Democrats want millions of people to die from this, do you? I'm going to need to hedge a little bit on this response. Like, I do a podcast and YouTube show, and I don't think, like, if someone asked me, like, do you think Republicans want millions of people to die from this? I could even just go like, absolutely not, because you can't really sort of like, choose who gets to die, right? Like even if you had to hedge bets, like you could say it that way. Or, I think I'd probably say, well, no, but they just don't want to, they don't really want to exert the effort to prevent that from happening if it's going to come out of their pocket. Like, but I'm not the vice president of the United States. Oh, well. And I think you should be able to just sort of come right out and say, of course not, Jake. Now, with that said, it's a political season, whatever. But he couldn't even say that because he's going to get in trouble.
The president said earlier this week.
No, go back. I think that moment where he's got to like, well,
and die from it. I mean, that does seem like it seems like very extreme rhetoric. I don't expect you to criticize the president's son, but you don't think that Democrats want people to contract this disease, do you?
Well, I think what the president said earlier this week, and his charge to me is to remind the American people that the risk is low, to assure the American people that we're ready, but also to say, as the president said, this is no time for politics. And frankly, I think that was Don Jr.'s point, that there has been some very strong rhetoric directed at the president by some members of Congress and
you don't think that was strong rhetoric?
Well,
he said seemingly Democrats want millions of Americans to die of coronavirus.
But responding to the kind of things that have been hurled is understandable. But what the president's charged us to do, in my conversations with Speaker Pelosi, with Senator Schumer, my conversations with Republican and Democrat governors, is to set the politics aside on this and to work the problem.
Now, you don't think it's being a little bit political when you refuse to say, yeah, no, of course, I don't think Democrats want millions of people to die.
He said it was understandable, but in the tone of voice that's saying it's worth condemnation. So it's like, did you catch that?
He did where he said it's understandable that the rhetoric, whatever.
Like he tried to sneak it past Tapper what he was actually talking about.
Well, they're setting up a conspiracy theory right now, I think, that this virus is somehow like a communist plot to take down Trump.
If it goes bad, it's the Reds.
Yes, and I think what this guy's is Mike Pence's entire sort of MO. Everything I say that agrees with the president, I'm just repeating what the president said. I got my arm's length, and he's deluding himself, of course. Like, I'm sorry, buddy, you're his boy. That's it. That's over. But he's also then he's like saying, but on the other hand, I can't say anything that if the president hears that in any way contradicts anything he's saying will be problematic too. So I'm gonna just we're gonna pray and do a little praying. There you go.